Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. The first annual Indigenous Peoples March took place in Washington, D.C. on Friday. People from across the globe stood together to bring awareness to the injustice affecting Indigenous nations. APTN's Ashley Branson was there to get their perspective on why it was important for them to participate.
Around 4,000 participants from across the U.S., Australia, and Canada gathered at the U.S. Department of the Interior. They united to bring awareness to the injustices affecting Indigenous nations.
You represent your people, your family, your tribe, your nations, because we are all Indigenous!
The day began with prayers and songs from Indigenous leaders to open the event. Amber French traveled from Missoula, Montana to be here today. She says she couldn't be more proud to be a part of this event.
We are all one. We are all in this together. So if anything that affects one of us, it affects all of us. So that's why it's important for us all to stick together and stand up for what we believe in.
Chanting, drumming, and singing began as the march commenced toward the Lincoln Memorial for the rally. Participants like BC Ledesma showcased handmade banners and signs to show support. Ledesma's from the Hungry Valley Indian Reservation in Nevada. She says there are so many issues Indigenous peoples face, but she shares one that she finds troubling.
The one that I see that's most upsetting to me right now is what our administration is doing with pressing for this racist border wall, which obviously is why I brought this specific sign, "No one is legal on stolen land," because it's really heartbreaking what they're doing to the children. I mean, those children look like my children because we are all brothers and sisters. Those people that are now south of what is now the border have been here since time immemorial, just like we have.
Nikki Bass is from the Nansemond tribe in Virginia. She says the stolen land continues to affect many tribes across the U.S.
The biggest issue for us is the threat of development continuing to take our land away, our natural resources away. These are things that happened at first contact, and they're still happening today with pipelines and big developers coming in, and money always seems to win, but we're out here to say that, you know, our history and our ancestry is more than money.
Ledesma says these issues can't be solved overnight, but puts emphasis on the need to keep talking and raising awareness, especially under President Trump's administration.
It starts at the top, and Donald Trump being in office right now is undoing a lot of the progress we had made under the Obama administration. So hopefully those that are on the side of right can just keep working, and we'll keep showing up and keep marching and, you know, being heard and being seen, and hopefully it'll turn the tide.
Ashley Branson, APTN National News, Washington, D.C.
There's more to that story. As things were winding down after the rally, a large group of boys from a Catholic school taunted Nathan Phillips, a Native American Vietnam War vet. CTV's Washington Bureau Joy Malbin reports that story.
At the foot of the Lincoln Memorial, watch these teenagers appearing to taunt a Native American elder. The video shows Trump hat-wearing teens from a Kentucky Catholic high school jumping up and down and jeering. One teenager uncomfortably close to 64-year-old Nathan Phillips, staring and grinning in a face-off.
That is highly disrespectful, not only to a Native American gentleman, but any older gentleman for a teenager to do that.
But new video shows there's more to this story. Phillips approaches the students who were there for an anti-abortion march, stepping in, he says, to keep the peace.
You little dirty-ass crackers, your day coming.
Bunch of incest babies.
Hurling insults at the teens, a religious group called the Black Hebrew Israelites.
I realized I had put myself in a really dangerous situation. You know, there's like, here's a group of people who were angry at somebody else, and I put myself in front of that.
After playing peacemaker, Phillips says the teens seemed to turn on him. The ugly display met with disgust online from the youngest daughter of Martin Luther King. Courageous people like this Native elder face overt racism. This is ugly, America, Bernice King wrote. To Captain America, actor Chris Evans tweeted, "This is appalling. The ignorance, the gall, the disrespect. It's shameful." Wiping away tears, Phillips says the hatred in the students' faces was scary.
When I was there singing, and I heard them saying, "Build that wall, build that wall." You know, this is indigenous lands. You know, we're not supposed to have walls here.
The Kentucky High School and Catholic Diocese were quick to condemn the students' behavior and promised to take disciplinary action that could include expelling some students.
Vincent Schilling is the associate editor of Indian Country Today, a Washington, D.C. based Indigenous news service, who found himself at ground zero of that viral video involving the students and the elder. He joins me by Skype to discuss how social media saga has unfolded. So, Mr. Schilling, what was your first reaction to the video that showed this group of non-Indigenous teens who were mocking an elder, Nathan Phillips, who was singing and drumming?
I was looking in complete and utter disbelief. I couldn't believe what was happening, and then immediately said, "I know him." I called an elder friend of mine and said, she's like, "Yep, that's Nathan Phillips." And within minutes, I was working to say, I know who this person is. This is the behavior that happened. And of course, as we know, everything went viral at that point.
Well, and there seemed like there was a kind of a cut and dry level of disgust for the level of disrespect that was shown in that video. But then within hours, there's this massive backlash and people saying that Phillips, quote, started it and that he confronted this group. I mean, what do you make of the sentiment that came after the initial disgust?
You know, I hate to say this, but I'm used to it. I'm used to, as a Native person, that, you know, anytime something happens that is counterintuitive to being respectful towards Native people, as a Mohawk man myself, I genuinely sit and wait for the backlash to come. And as much as I was disappointed that people were saying that, I also came to expect it because over the course of my life as a journalist, you know, it just kind of comes with the territory. And it comes with the territory of being a Native person. A lot of people don't understand that, but it does.
Some of the students, including the boy who stood kind of smugly as Phillips was saying and drummed, they've released statements with their versions of what happened. What are your thoughts on some of what they've had to say about the incident?
Well, hindsight is 20/20, and a lot of times we can explain away anything. It looks to be an extremely calculated attempt to explain away everything, and a lot of people on Twitter are saying so. You know, if this gentleman and young man is genuinely sorry, I really would like this to be a teachable moment. You know, but suspicions have run high. Even the Standing Rock Sioux tribe tweeted this morning, "This is not an apology." You know, I put that in the article I wrote about his statement as well.
You know, some people have said that this incident shows that racism is getting worse in the United States. Do you believe that to be true, that racism is getting worse, or is social media just capturing more of it?
No, I don't think it's getting worse. I think it's always been this way, but thanks to social media, the one thing about I noticed anyways when I was looking at the videos and watching the videos is just the swarm of cell phones that were everywhere. Any little moment happens now, people are there with their cell phones. And I've even heard people say this before, is that, you know, racism hasn't changed. It's just becoming more and more available to the public. And people come out and say, wow, I can't believe this is happening to you. I was speaking with someone yesterday from England, a journalist, and they were saying, this stuff happens to you? I said, I get this almost every day. Yeah. I've had death threats. I've been called a racist too, and all these things happen. And they were just in shock. And to me, I'm like, how can people not know this? So just as much awareness as people don't know, I'm realizing that people don't realize how much racism I get as a Mohawk man and as a journalist.
You said that you know Mr. Phillips. Have you had a chance to talk to him after this incident?
Yeah, I was corresponding with him throughout the day. We were chatting back and forth online. I called him that evening, and I issued a interview, and I asked him, or printed an interview to Indian Country Today, and I said, hey, so how'd you feel? And he's like, you know, he says, it was like an out-of-body experience. I wanted to step forward because no one was doing anything, and, you know, if no one's doing it, I will. And then he was like, he said very quickly, I was like, oh boy, what did I get myself into? And, you know, we all saw what happened. So he was very skittish, and he apologized to me for not answering the phone throughout the day, because a lot of people don't realize he was a victim of a assault at a state university that got news where people got a hold of his telephone and were making threats. And during the assault, the people threw beer cans at him, were calling him every kind of name you can imagine. So he's been pretty skittish about the whole thing, and he said, well, I hope maybe I'll do some more prayer. You know, it's been tough for him.
I bet. And just in case people aren't aware of the kind of the backstory to this, he had gotten in between this group of students and another group of people who were marching or rallying for something else, and they had kind of a little bit of a hostile exchange, and he had come in. Yes. My understanding from watching it is that he had come in almost to intervene, tried to drum some peace in there. Did he say that to you?
Well, yeah, he was saying, and if you look at, I literally did 6 articles over the weekend. If you could take a look at even some of the footage that came after the initial video broke, you could see these gentlemen who identify themselves as the Black Israelites who believe that they are descended from the Israelites and Hebrews, and they were yelling pretty profane explicatives towards the kids, towards Native people, calling Native people savages. And when you see this interactions going back and forth between the kids, Mr. Phillips comes in to play the drum, and a lot of people say he was the aggressor. He walked into the face. But what people don't understand, if I was having an argument with someone as a Native man, and he walked in between me and started drumming, I would freeze in my tracks and stop immediately what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understood that, and I think people miss it. I think people miss that cultural exchange that we as Native people understand. If a Native elder came and started drumming to me when I was arguing, I would stop in my tracks immediately. And I think that's what most of Indian country is very upset about, is these kids were sitting there with smug looks on their faces and yelling and screaming, and it just got ugly quick, to say the least.
Well, I guess we'll just watch and see how this week unfolds. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us and shed some light on this from your perspective. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys for shedding light on it as well. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thanks.
That was Vincent Schilling with Indian Country Today. A Thunder Bay judge has ordered a man to stand trial for second-degree murder in connection with the death of an Indigenous woman who was hit by a trailer hitch. That's coming up after the break, but first, here's tomorrow's weather. On the East Coast, we have -7 and sunny in Fredericton, -5 and sunshine in Halifax, -11 and snow in Nain, -10 and snow in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Chibougamau, sunshine, -14, -15 for Saguenay and Quebec City, sunny there. -8 and snow in Peterborough, sunny, and -13 in Ottawa. -17 in Big Trout Lake, -8 in Kapuskasing and Timmins, and snow there. -18 in snow in Thompson and God's Lake, -17 in snow in Norway House. -15s for Barons River, Princess Harbour, Gimli, and Winnipeg. -11 and sunny in Saskatoon, -6 in sunshine in Swift Current. -22 and sunshine in Uranium City, -17 and sunshine in La Ronge, -14 and sunny in Meadow Lake. Welcome back. After a preliminary hearing, a judge in Thunder Bay, Ontario, has ordered the young man charged with second-degree murder in the death of Barbara Kentner to stand trial. Kentner died in July 2018, months after she was hit in the stomach with a trailer hitch that was thrown from a passing vehicle. Braden Bushby, who was 18 at the time of the incident, was originally charged with aggravated assault, but those charges were upgraded following Kentner's death. No start date for the trial has been announced. A Winnipeg jury has found 2 men guilty in connection with the death of Janine Fontaine. Jason Mayer and Christopher Brass both pleaded not guilty to manslaughter. The verdict came in over the weekend after a nearly 2-week-long trial. Fontaine was found shot in the back of the head in her North End home in March 2017. Her home was then set on fire during what the Crown called a botched robbery. Court heard that Mayer and Brass went to the home with a third man, Malcolm Mitchell, to collect a drug debt from Fontaine's boyfriend. When the three didn't find him, they decided to rob Fontaine. Mitchell previously admitted to shooting Fontaine and pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. Fontaine's family says they feel justice has been served.
Her death has left us with a tremendous void in all of our lives. A verdict of guilty does not bring her back. That Janine got the last word and she got justice. And we're thankful that the process worked this time.
A new program in Saskatchewan is the first of its kind in the country and working to keep high-risk mothers and their newborns together. Our Amber Bernard has the story.
Sanctum 1.5 is a high-risk pregnancy and HIV care home in Saskatoon. It was started by Sanctum, a non-for-profit charity in collaboration with Health and Child Welfare. Their mission is to help mothers struggling with substance abuse and to prevent their children from entering the foster care system. They help vulnerable moms work towards sobriety while allowing them to keep their babies. Right now, there are about 5,000 children in the province in foster care, and 80% of them are Indigenous. Sanctum 1.5 has been operating a 10-bed unit for about 3 months since it opened last October.
I think that's where Sanctum 1.5 came from, the understanding that that with the right supports and services in place, we could prevent these babies from being apprehended at birth. And really, these moms weren't being given an opportunity because they lacked really some of the most basic kind of things that we need as human beings, like a roof over your head, right? A safe space to come home to.
Sanctum 1.5 works with moms at any stage in their pregnancy, while the ministry only works with mothers once the baby is born.
I'll give an example of one of our moms who I met at Detox, and she was 8 months pregnant and had been told that she would never parent this baby due to her history and due to their concerns with substance use. So when I told her there was an opportunity to come to a place where she could parent her baby, it was, I think, very emotional for her because she had gone through her whole pregnancy with no hope, right? Mm-hmm. And so she walked through these doors, and she's been sober ever since.
Sanctum 1.5 will house mothers for about 3 months while they work towards a positive transition back into their communities.
If we weren't here, she would have gone into labor and her baby would have been apprehended.
They say the risks of separating moms and babies at birth can cause many health effects.
I've seen attachment disorder in moms who are trying to parent, and the attachment disorder actually prevents them from that. It prevents them from any healthy, meaningful relationship with not only babies, but people in general.
Dr. Brenda Moore, a pediatrician in Saskatoon, says attachment disorder can cause lifelong health concerns.
When a baby is born, it's a critical period for this baby and the parents, especially the mother, to form a bond. And if they are separated, there is a possibility that if that separation lasts for too long, that this bond will never be formed. And so this linked to mental health problems for both mom and baby.
Sanctum 1.5 is expected to have their first mother and child transition into the community next month.
It's both rewarding and also sad because in 4 months we've seen such incredible gains in all of these moms, so much so that we know that right now all of them are transitioning into the community. So that's super rewarding, but it's also heartbreaking to know that we only have 10 beds and that this isn't available to every mom.
Amber Bernard, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
We want to hear what you think. Here's how you can continue the conversation. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/APTN News. You can also follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. The City of Burnaby's attempt to stop the company building the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion from doing work at the Burnaby terminal was recently shot down by the National Energy Board. The Federal Court of Appeal quashed the pipeline expansion, and the project is currently on hold. The city argued that the clear-cutting of trees and piping modifications at the terminal were directly related to the expansion project. The NEB agreed with Trans Mountain that the work had nothing to do with the expansion, but was simply an upgrade to existing infrastructure. One opponent of the pipeline project, however, argues that all work should stop until the pipeline's future is settled.
You know, they can word it any which way they want, that this has nothing to do with it, but you look in this area behind me, there is some clear cutting there. You look at the tank farm on Burnaby Mountain, it's obvious they're preparing for something. You know, these are spiritual highway right here. You know, we're following our spiritual laws to protect this land here, this water as well.
It's time for another break, but when we come back, a Siksika athlete who is training for the 2020 Olympics, and here's the rest of tomorrow's weather. To northern Alberta, we have -16 and snow in Fort McMurray, -3 and sunny in Grand Prairie, -4 and sunshine in Red Deer, -3 and sunny in Medicine Hat, -2 and snow in Kamloops, -1 and snow in Cornell, -5 and snow in Dease Lake, -1 in Smithers, -26 in Rock River, -18 in Dawson City and Mayo, snow in there, -28 in clear skies in Norman Wells, -24 and sunny in Yellowknife. Tuck is in at -25 as Paulatuck, snow, and -27 in Colville Lake. -37 and clear in Baker Lake, clear, and -41 in Repulse Bay. -31 and clear in Igloolik, -25 and clear in Iqaluit. Welcome back. An athlete from Siksika Nation in Alberta is halfway around the world because he's training in hopes of competing in the 2020 Olympics. Runner Riley Many Bears is in Eaton, Kenya. He's at a high-altitude training center preparing for a race coming up in June, but his end goal is to compete in the Olympics. Many Bears has competed in the first World Indigenous Games as well as the North American Indigenous Games, but says Kenya's intense heat and high altitude has been a learning curve.
This is actually my first time training at altitude, and it was really difficult at first. You know, like I had my good days and bad days, just like everyone else. But you know, like so far, I'm showing some really great results, and it's been amazing here so far.
The remains of 2 Beothuk people that have been kept in a Scottish museum could be coming home. The National Museum of Scotland says an agreement has been reached with Canada to transfer 2 skulls back here. The remains have been at the museum since the 1850s. It is believed the Beothuk, once indigenous to what is now called Newfoundland and Labrador, have been extinct since 1829. APTN Investigates has discovered the remains of hundreds of indigenous people are being held at universities across Canada. For more on that, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. That is your news for this Monday. Thanks for joining me. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.